Hello, this is Adam Bernard with AutoPerspectives, and once again, a roundup of some of the more interesting stories in the auto industry from the past week or so. And as a little spoiler alert, this will be a very Korea-intensive set of stories. We will start with the Genesis flagship, which is finally taking shape prior to a launch sometime between now and the end of the year. This is the GV90. You see the rendering here shown, the large white vehicle. The GV90 was previewed by the Neoloon concept that was shown at last year's New York Auto Show. And you can see the Neoloon there in the upper right. This is the first entry off the new EM 800-volt platform that replaces Hyundai's current eGMP architecture. And it should be noted that the eGMP was launched about 5 years ago, so it means they are pretty aggressive in terms of replacing their EV hardware as they roll out their next generation of EVs. Now, the GV90 will target the Cadillac Escalade IQ, the Mercedes EQS SUV, and the upcoming Range Rover Electric, and will likely be the first Hyundai product with a six-figure price tag outside of the Korean market. Now, the concept featured swivel seats, a heated floor, and coach doors, or what you might call suicide doors, rear opening doors. You know, not everything from a concept makes it to production, but based on the spy photo in the lower right, it suggests that there will be a long wheelbase variant of the GV90 with coach doors. So those, just like a Rolls-Royce Cullinan, those same coach style doors, and that'll be alongside a standard wheelbase variant with more conventional rear doors. Now, remember that Genesis is still on target to have an all-EV portfolio by the end of the decade, but they will be adding some kind of hybrid between now and the end of the decade in order to kind of ease that transition, likely starting next year. Production on the GV90 is expected to start by the end of 2025, so a reveal could be as early as next month's New York Auto Show. Remember, that's where the Neoloon was first shown. Now, Genesis got off to a slow start. They launched with two sedans in a market that really liked SUVs. They launched without a separate dealer network, so it was tough to provide the appropriate purchase and owner experience for a luxury car owner who is looking to spend $80,000 to $100,000. But the products have slowly been getting better. The media reports have been increasingly positive, and so they have slowly been building the momentum. And having a $100,000 flagship EV will likely help build some street cred, as it were, for the brand. We'll know more when we see the final production of the GV90. Next up is the Kia EV2. Now, last week, Kia had their EV Day. They've had EV days in the past, and this particular day was focused on launching one concept and two production vehicles. And the EV2 that you see here is the concept. This is a small hatchback that previously a production vehicle due in 2026. Based on past history, it will likely look very similar to what you see here. Now, because it's called the EV2, it is, of course, smaller and more affordable than the EV3. It shares the same 400-volt front drive architecture, but will likely come in about 20% cheaper, or in Europe, about 30,000 euros. There were no technical specs provided for the EV2. Like other Kia EVs, it will likely come in with two battery packs. Some sources have suggested that the target ranges are somewhere in the neighborhood of 160 to 240 miles, at least on the EPA cycle. And they will feature V2L, or vehicle-to-load functionality. That means that you can plug other electric devices into the EV2 in order to recharge them. Now, the concept was shown with rear doors with no B-pillar, so coach doors, just like the GV90. Unlike the GV90, the production EV2 is unlikely to have that rather costly feature, so it'll probably have conventional doors. The interior that we saw on the concept features removable triangular Bluetooth speakers, a nice double screen display, a flip-up rear seat cushion, and a front bench seat, and the ability to project messages on the windows to communicate with other drivers. You can see there a little message that says, "Have a nice day." Not all of that will make it to production, but again, it should be pretty close overall. The EV2 will likely be built in Korea for a variety of non-North American markets. And of course, because Kia is part of the Hyundai Motor Group, there will likely be a Hyundai variant, perhaps badged Ioniq 2 or Ioniq 3. Now, in addition to the EV2 concept, Kia even indicated that there might even be a smaller vehicle en route called the EV1. And that might be shown next year for launch in 2027 at a price point of about 25,000 euros. But we'll have to wait and see because, of course, nothing is confirmed yet. Now, while the EV2 was a concept vehicle, the EV4 that you see here is a full production vehicle. Now, the concept was first shown in 2023, but as it turns out, the production vehicle really didn't deviate too much from what we had been shown 2 years ago. It is now a $35,000 competitor to Tesla's Model 3. Initially, will be built in Korea and launching in Korea and Europe later this year. In 2026, we will likely get the EV4 in North America, possibly built at Kia's plant in Mexico. Of course, the whole tariff situation may throw some of those plans off, so we'll have to wait for an official confirmation later this year. The EV4 is front drive with either a 58 or an 81 kilowatt hour battery with an expected EPA range of 220 to 330 miles. So should be pretty competitive given the price point. The interior, as you can see in the upper right, features a 30-inch wide dual screen display, as well as physical controls for both volume and climate control. Hyundai and Kia have both noted that having all virtual controls is probably not a great customer experience, so they have committed to keeping physical controls inside of their future vehicles. You'll see this particular variant here of the EV4 is a fastback four-door sedan. It's got a claimed drag coefficient of 0.23, which is pretty good for a vehicle of the size. It picks up design cues from both the EV5 and the EV9, as well as similar SUV-like black wheel arch cladding. Now, outside of North America, they will get a somewhat more conventionally profiled five-door hatchback. Because the hatchback is not as aerodynamic as the four-door fastback sedan, the EV range will be a little shorter, but still pretty competitive, and this five-door will be built in Slovakia. All the EV4s are 400-volt vehicles, not 800 volts like the more expensive Hyundai and Kia EVs, and they're claiming a charge time of about 30 minutes for 10 to 80%. These are all front-drive vehicles with a 201 horsepower motor, 0 to 60 in about 7.5 seconds, which is not super fast, not super slow, certainly acceptable, and again, V2L capability. Now, Kia has also hinted at an EV4 GT, which would be a high-performance variant, and rumors have suggested that vehicle would have simulated gear shifts like the new Hyundai Ioniq 5N. The EV4 is also expected to offer phone as key functionality, as well as in-car karaoke for aspiring singers out there. And finally, we'll look at Kia's PV5 on the commercial side of the portfolio. The PV5 is one of three vans that was shown at CES in 2024 in Las Vegas, alongside the larger PV7 and the smaller PV1. This is a midsize van, so it's bigger than a Ford Transit Connect, smaller than a Ford Transit, and will launch in Korea and Europe in the second half of this year. Underneath the PV5 is Kia's PBV, or Platform Beyond Vehicles. It's derived from their eGMP platform, but it is a 400-volt architecture and it is front drive. A single motor puts out about 161 horsepower. There is a 51 or 71 kilowatt hour battery. If you do get the cargo variant, there's a smaller battery at 43 kilowatt hours, which helps keep the overall cost down. Now, the big battery will get you about 200 miles on the EPA cycle, and the charge time is 30 minutes for about a 10 to 80% charge, not unlike the Kia EV4. And again, like the EV4, it also offers V2L functionality. Now, the standard variants for the PV5 at launch will include a passenger version like you see here, a cargo variant, a chassis cab, and a wheelchair accessible version with a fold-out ramp. It'll come in 2 lengths and 2 heights to suit a variety of cargo and payload needs. Now, Kia has noted this platform is extremely flexible, and the plant is flexible. So they're also working on crew, drop side, box van, freezer box, and camper variants to eventually follow. Kia claims the boxy profile of the PV5 provides up to 5.1 cubic meters of cargo space. That's pretty good. If you look at a VW ID Buzz Cargo, which is the commercial version of VW's electric van, that only has 3.9 cubic meters. So there's a pretty amount of space inside here. Kia also notes the add gear is a range of modular accessories that can be added to the cabin for additional functionality. Kia also notes that they will be adding Samsung's B2B Internet of Things platform, which is called SmartThings Pro, to provide more connectivity, more functionality inside the vehicle, which should be helpful to business owners. All of the PV5s, as well as the other vans, will come out of a new dedicated commercial vehicle plant in Korea at a likely starting price here of about $37,000. Now, right now, there's no plans to send the PV5 to North America. The cargo and the chassis cab versions would be subject to the same 25% chicken tax that would hit a non-North American built pickup truck. There are probably going to be additional tariffs that would be applied to the passenger van as well. So it's not clear what the plans are here on this side of the pond. But Kia indicated in 2020 that they did want to get into the commercial vehicle business. And if you look at Ford Motor Company, some folks on Wall Street have viewed Ford Pro, their commercial vehicle business, as kind of the crown jewel. So Kia is looking for a piece of the action to make some additional money for the company. And the PV5 looks to be a good step in that direction. That about wraps up the news this week. If you want to learn more, visit us at www.autoperspectives.net. And if you like what you hear and see, please subscribe and share. We will see you back here next week. Bye-bye.